Hello and welcome to tonight's Get in Tune. I'm Michael Gracia, and I have a really great show planned tonight. I'm going to talk with actually two old co-workers of mine who came together to create some indie comics, and I got to say I'm a big fan of what they do. One is an incredibly talented writer, the other an amazingly talented and skillful artist. I'm a fan of both, so let's just bring them on. Here's the writer, Christian De Matteo, and the artist, James Lines. Hey guys.
Hello.
How are you?
Thank you for joining me here. And before we begin, what I want to do is make sure that everyone knows how to get you guys, how to find you. So scrolling across the bottom throughout the entire interview, as usual, is their contact information. All right.
What I've done is I've transcribed one of my novels down there.
So, first of all, it's great to see you guys. I haven't seen you in maybe 4 years or so.
That's probably
it's been a while.
Been a while, so it's really nice to see you guys. I'm really happy that you guys have teamed up. I've always been a fan of both of your work. And before we begin, and I'll usually save this stuff for the end, but I want to thank you guys right now, not for being on, but being indie creators, bringing content, bringing stories to the world that that people, need out there, So we got a couple of people in the comments already. So we got Mike Lopez says hello, and MV Sparks saying Michael, my man, and that Halo Scott saying Christian.
Halo. We love Halo. Halo is writing this unbelievable series, which you can get on Amazon, that is viciously violent, and it's absolutely incredible. I want to make sure I always say the wrong thing. I was right. Edge of Breach. Good. I always get the title a little wrong in my head. I always say it's Edge of Breach, and then the sequel just came out, Echoes of Blood. I mean, when I say Intestine Necklace, I mean this is some heavy duty stuff. I'm a big fan of Halo.
So why don't we begin? Like, I always like to begin with finding out some of your backgrounds. How you got into. I don't want to use the word art, but the comic world. Was that something from your childhood? Was it something new to you? What was your connection, and what was your? If you want to go back to your childhood, but what was it that brought you to comics? Whoever wants to answer first.
James, can I tell that thing that you said to me that day in the hallway that cracked me up, that made me feel like a real nerd?
Sure, yeah. I'll always let you lead off, and then I'll follow up.
I'm gonna start with like us. We're talking one day about comics, and I'm talking about this influence and that influence. It's really cool. And James is like, I just never really got that into comics at that age. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I've never felt so low in my life. I was like, no, I was reading comics. So when you ask that question, it's the first thing that comes to mind. It's just James and just maybe like, okay, so you're astoundingly cooler than I am. I got that. Let me tell you more about my man Spider-Man. James, do you want to start us out on it?
Yeah, well, so comics have slowly seeped my way in, mostly through our relationship, Christian and I's relationship. I still, Christian is a very generous guy, and he, sends me stuff from Image Comics and so forth. So I've been reading up a lot of stuff. I think my art history goes a long way off. Michael sent us some questions, and one of them was my influences and stuff. I got a whole page here. Like, we probably talk about nothing but that. But my early influences has always been music. You see from my shirt here, I've always been a lifelong metalhead, and the earliest stuff that I remember doing, at least that was illustrational and not like sculptural stuff, was always kind of copying things off heavy metal albums. I'm old enough to have gone to record stores and actually bought records at record stores. And, one of the things about viewing an album is staring at the cover while you're looking at the album, looking at the lyrics and so forth. So I think that's what, at least the stuff that influences my comics, that's the earliest stuff that I, could think of that was similar to it. And then, of course, other, our style is a little bit different, but, I share love of like Looney Tunes with Mike here. And, that was the Saturday morning cartoons. That was the first thing I watched. And I've been, an artist since, I don't know, I can't even remember, just forever. So, I think comics have come to me late, but I will say that I really think comics are something that I've missed out on artistically and for a lot of my career. I've always had this kind of weird style that people are like, oh yeah, that's great. I wouldn't hang it on my living room wall, but it looks great, So they, people have always liked my stuff, but they I never had like a solid place to express it. And now, Christian gives me that to be able to, express myself and all the, the weirdness and stuff, and not have to kind of correct it or whatever for commercial art or even, fine art and stuff, which I do. I enjoy drawing flowers and landscapes and stuff, but this stuff really gets to the center of what I am creatively, which is cool.
That's you mentioned heavy metal, and one of the most famous comic magazines ever is Heavy Metal.
Yeah.
And that's exactly that vibe that runs between the two. I came to comics late, as in like 12 years old. My friends were into it earlier. I was the stationery store that I went to in Yonkers, which I always have to shout out. My wife is probably in the other room rolling her eyes right now.
Hey, that's where I'm located right now, man.
There you go. It's my hometown. I would live by the Tanglewood Shopping Center.
Know it very well.
The stationery store that I went to, the comics were located under another kind of magazine, and we would kind of go in there and peer up as though we were looking at the comics to see if we could catch a little bit of the cover of another kind of magazine. And my geek self stopped on Spider-Man. I was like, "What is this?" And that's actually the beginning of the first Spider-Man comic I ever purchased.
Really?
Was from an illicit attempt to look at something I shouldn't have been looking at. But I was immediately drawn. Spider-Man and Ant-Man. It was an annual, I think. But I was immediately drawn in. Spider-Man is, my son colored this Spider-Man in over here and made his own costume out of it. He combined the black and the traditional. It's his favorite now. I got really into the superheroes. And then I was a product of the 90s when Image happened, when Image broke out. And my name is in the back of Todd McFarlane's last Spider-Man for Marvel.
Really?
Fans he listed. I embarrassed my parents completely by jumping out of my chair in a Chinese restaurant in Yonkers and the Tanglewood Shopping Center.
Can I say, just since you mentioned that twice, that Chinese restaurant's gone.
I know.
And I just want to ask you, was Catania's there when you were there?
Oh, dude, whenever I'm there, I get literally a sheet of meatball calzones to bring home.
I just had them the other day. I got to say, listen, they don't sponsor me or anything, but I got to give a shout out to Catania's Pizzeria in Yonkers in Tanglewood. They are the best pizzeria in Yonkers.
No one in Westchester, actually anywhere I've been, makes a lasagna slice like they do.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. No, Catania is near and dear to my heart. So then I got out of comics for a little while and started. I had wanted to draw comics. That's the real secret here. Okay. Is I wanted to draw comics. And then one day I had the heartbreaking realization that I suck at drawing. I mean, like, shockingly. And both of you, James has got some real winners from me, where I'm like, here's what I'm imagining for the page. And I got out of it, and I went and got an English degree because I hate making money, and then went to grad school for creative writing because I really hate making money. And I followed writing, and and then I found myself back here. But I don't want to jump ahead. But I have a long history with comics, and I discovered about 10 years ago that Image was doing something, and then so many other studios. They'd gone away from the superhero in a traditional way, and the best sci-fi fantasy adventures, the best noir, was coming out in comic form, and I had no idea. And now I'm dug in.
Well, I will say this. You know me. I've been reading comics probably as long as you have. I don't remember our age difference, but
I'm much younger by like 15 years.
Probably, yeah. I'm going to be 45 in a couple of months, and and I bought my first actual comic book to start collecting in 1989. So I was 13. So I was around your age when I started collecting, and I totally forgot where I was going to go with this, but it was we've been in it for a long time. Superheroes were a big thing. And this is where I was going to go. Sorry. Mainstream comics, the mainstream superheroes, looks like they're kind of fading away. I mean, there's people always going to love them, but the people that I've been talking with are looking for different things, looking for non-superhero, or at least not a Spider-Man or a Superman or something. They're looking for new stuff. And you guys honestly create that, but I don't think through superheroes. So somebody named Purple Smurf 13 says they've been collecting, I guess, since about age 11, which is great.
Purple Smurf.
Purple Smurf was on one of our first published anthologies. Great guy.
Cool.
He's got what's this thing out? Tales
of Zero coming.
Tales of Zero coming out.
Kickstarter, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, him and Matt Queen doing a great job. They're like our original gangsters with us.
With John Jack, Matt Queen, and Mike Flanagan, and Purple Smurf was the quarantine, the containment breach team. Our first.
Yeah, we put that together with those guys.
And we're gonna get to your anthology in a little bit. Okay. Actually, I had a question for James. Now, yes. Because you got the comics late, was there a transition time for you learning how to tell stories sequentially that way, or did you have any kind of background in sequential art?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I would say I came from an illustration background mostly. I've done sculptural stuff when I was younger. Back in the days when I was going to Westchester Community College, I was more into sculpture and so forth. That was kind of the thing I started with, and of course drawing. And then I went for my master's degree in illustration. I finished that up in 2014, and that sort of renewed my passion for pencils and paper and all. I really like to do mixed media stuff. But yeah, sequential art was something new. They actually had some classes there at SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, on sequential. I actually had a whole degree on that. I could have taken that, but it wasn't something that I was into. So I was basically into storytelling, but in a single format, or of course animation. I have a history in some 3D animation as well.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of what carries over. Christian and I had a conversation the other night about being able to spatially think about a space in our current title River that we're working on. We have this big sort of futuristic factory, and thinking about where things are in space and so forth. I think that kind of comes from my animation background, thinking about things in the round and being able to look around in a room that doesn't really exist and being able to draw it accurately from different angles. It's definitely been a learning curve. There's some funny stories about gloveless versus gloved fingers in the first issue of River. Luckily, Christian's wife is a pretty good like a continuity specialist. So she's looking through and she's like, "Oh yeah, there's fingers there are wrong." And it's a lot of work, even drawing like ladies and making sure that their hair is the same sort of hairstyle, or either it's the same hairstyle or it looks too much the same. because they're running around and jumping around and doing all this exciting stuff. It shouldn't really look the same every time. It is definitely a big challenge. It's been a big learning curve, and also for the more beginner artists out there, I think like a lot of people, I had always concentrated a lot on characters, not so much on backgrounds, and that's a big thing of sequential storytelling is getting those backgrounds right and being able to have them angle around your character, make that believable. Because the thing about that type of work is it's always as you know, Michael, the one thing that you don't do right, that's what's going to catch your eye. Oh, not just you, but your viewers. Of course, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I'm always like almost too obsessed with what's going on in there. But it's always that one thing that you do wrong is what's going to catch someone's eye.
We have some fascinating moments of me being the problem, where I'm like, all right, so then he gets shot and he gets blown over there, and James is like, yeah, but that's 2 feet away. And I'm like, what? Like, over there. He's like, right, if you look at the picture, I'm like, I don't know. Have him run that way. There's a wall there. I'm like, well, move it, James is keeping us firmly rooted in reality.
That's great, though. That's hysterical.
And that's one of the cool things about, for viewers of this I'm sure we have a lot of students and stuff on here. It's a really, I can't stress how important it is to work with others when you're kind of working on your, don't just do your own thing. Even, find someone else who's an amateur like you and, write with them. I've learned so much with Christian. I mean, it's unbelievable with I wouldn't be anywhere near where I'm at without having to bounce off Christian all the time and his writing ideas. It's just, it's an incredible learning experience to work with someone outside. It was kind of like when I would work in animations and so forth. I had a brief stint I did some game design stuff, and working with the programmers in game design was also a big eye opener too, because we'd have the same conversation. Oh, yeah, just have them do this and do that, and it's like, oh, you can't code it that way. It's always cool to collaborate and bring something into reality as opposed to the ideas in your head.
Yeah, agreed.
I gotta say, I'm sorry, I'm just getting so many comments. I'm paying attention, you guys, but Daniel Jones, first of all, he just wanted a shout out. So, hey, Daniel. But
Daniel,
you got. I got to go back and look here. I think they're just having a conversation on their own now, some of these people, which is fantastic. But we got Evan Neff says you're a super incredible Incredible team duo. That's how he says it. And
That's
Evan.
Much love to Evan, dear friend.
I have to agree. And when I advertise them as a dynamic duo, because you guys really are. Badass. Who's this? Rob.
Yeah, Christian's Robin. I'm Batman.
I just doing a countdown in my head. It's a hype thing, isn't it?
I can prove it. I got the cowl right over here. He's wearing the green underwear.
And red
I'm wearing the utility belt and the mask.
So, all right. I'm sorry. This is going to be a very humorous night. If you guys.
Oh wait, we haven't even gotten Christian started yet.
I know.
I can't stand up, or I prove you're right.
So let's just. I want to move on in a moment from your background, but actually, Christian, you gave us your background. But I want to talk.
I said something.
Yeah, but I want to talk just about a few influences. You don't have to go crazy, but like for you, Christian, I know you grew up basically reading comics in your teenage years. Whether it was artists or writers, who were influenced you to want to pursue a comic path?
So it was all the artists. I mean, I'm not kidding about that. It was all the artists. Eric Larson, Todd McFarlane. Yeah. I mean, you go through the greats of the Jim Lee. You go through the greats of that time period. And there were Greg, who's working with Scott Snyder on the Batman. He was Capullo.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many greats of that time period and earlier as well. And I'm not one of those guys that can rattle off names all the time, but that I wanted to draw, and I got into the musculature. The thing I can draw is a Ninja Turtle. right? So
Actually, I remember that. Didn't you have one hanging in your office? Besides the one I drew for you.
and right next to that, every meeting I've ever gone to, I come
It's
out.
still there.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that.
So, yeah, but I just couldn't do it. I loved the stories, and I love to read. I love books all my whole life, and yet it never occurred to me to get into comics for the writing. So when I discovered I couldn't do the art, I just dropped it. And then I started writing. I've written screenplays, novels, short stories, plays, all kinds of things. And it never occurred to me to turn back into comics with the writing until, until you asked me to write a comic.
And actually, you know what? I was going to get to that later. Christian has written a really great comic for me. Due to a lot of things, you guys who watch me regularly know I've talked about my medical issues and some of the stuff where I've had to deal with depression and things. It kept me out of the circuit for a while. There are things I'm working on, but I have Christian's story finally down for like a 2021, 2022 start. All right. So there are a lot of things I want to put out, but it's going to be end of 2021. I'm going to start on it, or in 2022. So that's
awesome.
That's something. So we'll be chatting at some point.
But this is something that happened, is that you approached me to write a comic, and I said, dude, yeah, one of my buddies who might be out there, who, if you can hear me well, it's because he gave me a great mic, because he couldn't stand talking to me on this anymore. My buddy, my man Rob Riley, him and I met when he asked me to work on a screenplay with him, and I came in cock of the walk. I'm like, yeah, I've written novels, I got this. And the discovery was that writing a screenplay is an entirely different animal. And it was like a crushing blow at first. I had to climb a whole new mountain, right? Like when I got my smoker, I was like, I barbecue. I'm a barbecue king. And a smoker is like learning to cook again. Yeah. Well, when I turned my hand to comics, I was more chastened. It was less hubris after the screenplay experience, which was amazing working with Rob, and he really guided me into that, was learning how to write a comic script. And my first thought was, well, I'll do this like a screenplay. And to this day, I've learned that's not accurate. But to this day, James, every now and again, will be like, dude, you wrote that frame like it was moving. Like, right, still image.
You know, I will say, though, a lot of writers have that issue. Writers I've worked with and stuff, they have so much information in their head that they want to get down on the paper that sometimes they're writing more for movement, animation, movies, and you're like, okay, how many panels can I break that up in? You know, and talk to them about it. But it happens. It happens. I asked to shout out Rob Riley, so he got a shout out from Christian there. And
Cinemook. At Cinemook.
At Cinemook? Okay.
Cinemook.
I know.
Cinemook. Okay.
Cinemook. Cinemook, his movie company.
I do want to say one thing, Christian, when you were talking about writing. You told me a story once. We were talking, and this is always. I'm pretty sure you were, but
right.
there was something you told me that I don't know if it was while you were in your master's. One of your writing professors told you that when you had trouble writing, attack it from a different point of view, and you attempted drawing it out. Is that something that you do now when you're working with James as a writer, because it is visual?
Yeah. I'll show you some. So that was I was at Columbia. Nicholas Christopher, who is a great writer. I don't know if he's still teaching there or not. He wrote a book called Map of the Stars that is unbelievable. He was one of my professors, and we were talking about a scene that was really hard to address. And he said, try another art form. Try another art form. And I'm like, well, someone, I don't know what this is. I'm like, well, what do you mean? I said, all I do is write. He said, do something else with it. He goes, do you play music? I said, no. Do you sing? I said, you don't want that. He said, try another art form. Draw. And all the years that I was attempting to write comics, now I'm like 22, 23 years old. And the scene that I had to write, the problem was that it disturbed me. my main character had gone down a terrible road and was going to do something anathema to me, something disgusting. And I was writing, and when I'd write it, I'd go really tell instead of show, really technical. And it was terrible, but because I didn't want to delve into it. And I drew it, and I still have it somewhere. I drew it in panels, and it was horrendous, both my drawing and the content. But getting that visceral content out there and looking at its ugliness on the page, my brain clicked on how to make it not ugly. It still had to be ugly, but it had to work and be something someone could read and get into and be disturbed by in the way that kept propelling them through. And I very often will bust out a piece of paper because I write on the computer. I'll bust out a piece of paper and a pen, and I'll start framing and saying, well, this could happen here. Well, no, this can't happen here. Do I want it? Where would a splash be if I'm going to interrupt this thing? And I do have to do that, absolutely. And it really helps. And then what I do is I take a picture of it and I send it to James, and James says, "That's great, thanks." And then he saves them and shows them to me again later because they're horrendous. So James, this is kind of what I'm thinking. He's like, "Ah, good to know."
Well, as long as it helps James, that's the important thing.
I save them all. I'm going to make an anthology of Christian's drawings eventually.
Oh, that's great. I would love to see that. So James, let's talk to you about your inspiration. It doesn't have to be comics. I know you came to them late, but if you have any comic influences, I'd love to hear them. But any art that influenced you in what you do, how you work.
Yeah. So like I said, early on, a lot of it was like, it's funny. Heavy Metal Magazine, that was a big influence on me. Younger, I think anyone in any genres would say they're a fan of Frank Frazetta. He's always a huge influence of mine. Magician with a paintbrush.
Yeah, I got a poster of his from Fire and Ice, a print of his over there.
Yeah, and I loved how he collaborated in with some animation and so forth. Fire and Ice was a great. I think early on, I think the what's his name? Arthur Rankin Jr. The guy who did like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah, Rankin.
He did a version of The Hobbit that I was obsessed with when I was younger. It was like 1977, I think it came out, and I was just obsessed with the artwork in that movie, and just copied all the characters out of there. And that came out when I was 6 years old, so I was watching that stuff ever since I can remember.
Yeah.
I have so many about what makes me. I think going through the covers, Joe Patagno, I think his name is. I think he's Italian. I'm not sure. He did some Motorhead covers, and I was actually looking up. He actually did the logo for Led Zeppelin, which I didn't even know.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Logo. The Icarus or Icarus logo, he did that. Derek Riggs, who did the Eddie character for Iron Maiden. I spent all my years drawing that guy all over all my brown paper coverings from all my books. Mom would make the brown paper bag coverings, and I would cover them with along with logos and stuff. All his Eddie from Iron Maiden. Robert Williams, big illustrational guy, sort of a surrealist illustrator. I got into him when one of his illustrations was featured on one of the Guns N' Roses albums. I don't know, it wasn't on the cover, but it was on the inside. It was like this really cool image of this like character with like steel teeth coming over a wall. This woman with her looks like she'd been ravaged or something. Real crazy image. I remember just staring at that when I was a kid, and I got really into him. Looking him up back in the day before the internet was such a big thing, trying to figure out what was going on with him. Roger,
the Inside of Appetite, by the way.
Yeah, that one of the seminal albums of my youth, 80, 88, 89, whenever that came out. Roger Dean from the Yes albums. Just just a real love of fantasy art and so forth. I think that's the stuff that most directly influences me in my current style. I can mention surrealists and so forth as well. I think some things that are on everybody's list: Salvador Dali, and big fan of Gustav Klimt. I think that's how you say his name. I got it's just a wide range. The cartoony stuff I like. Big Daddy Roth. I don't know if a lot of people have heard about this. It's sort of a guy who was really into the custom car culture. He did a lot of. You probably might not recognize him, but you'd recognize some of his artwork of these sort of monster characters driving cars and so forth. He was a huge influence in the kind of California custom car culture. You probably recognize some of his stuff. Like I said, I could go on all night and just keep going. But I think some of that stuff is the stuff that you can see in my comic style.
Yeah. No, well, definitely. I mean, I know you, but if I didn't know you and looking at your work, I can totally tell that music is a major influence in what you create. We did have a couple of questions, and one of them came from Evan Knapp, and it was for you, James, but we're going to get to it when we talk about Containment Breach. He wants you to talk about the panels, but just when we get to talking about Containment Breach, let's make sure we talk about that. Joseph D Matteo, I'm assuming a relative, says the only comic he followed was Mad, which was a great magazine.
Oh, yeah, Mad Magazine. I forgot about that. Yeah.
That's my dad. That's my dad. Hey, Dad.
I'm actually a huge Sergio Aragonés fan who I discovered in Mad. He did all the pantomime strips in there and all that. I actually have an original Gru up on my wall that I bought from him at a convention years ago. So we got one.
Joseph De Matteo is a talented artist. I don't know what happened to his son.
The apple fell down a hill.
He's got great paintings. He's always sharing paintings and stuff with me, and I'm like, hey, I don't know what happened to Christian.
He's on Instagram, and you can see. I mean, he's.
I'll have to look it up. Is it his name?
James, I'm not on Instagram. I actually don't know his Instagram name.
Let me look it up.
He's producing every day more and more stuff, and he's wildly experimenting with different styles. He's doing such stuff.
So it's first initial, last name, J. De Matteo, 3015. 3015.
Okay, I'll look that up.
Yeah,
on Instagram.
I'll make sure to look that up after we're done here. There is a question, and I did want to get into your process. This might be a good time to get into it, but C. Thomas Anderson asks for both of you, in terms of art and writing, how do you go about research for a project? Do you look at older or iconic works in a specific genre or avoid them, historical research, etc.? What do you guys do?
That's an awesome question. C. Thomas Anderson, by the way, has Holger. Hold on, I'll make sure I get it right. And I'm waiting for my copy to come because I backed it on Kickstarter. He is this incredible artist doing this beautiful work, and I've actually reached out to him because I'm worried he's working too hard. I mean, I'm not even kidding. On Twitter, I was like, "You got to sleep. You're scaring me. He's producing so much." But he's got Holgar the Last Viking coming out, and it's such a cool concept. And it's I'm so mad at myself right now. His partner. Oh, forgive me. I was going to reach out to you yesterday too, and I forgot. I'm so sorry for forgetting your name. It's so cool. It's such a cool concept. For me and my end of this, things come into my head, and I just start writing, and I see where they go. Once I know what something is, let's say what genre it's going to slip into more, Then
Alton Honors. I'm sorry. Alton Honors is the winner.
there it is. Honors. Thank you. And you got Mr. Holgard, the Last Viking. It looks awesome.
That sounds. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that sounds very familiar to me. So I don't think I backed it, but I might have seen the ads for it. So
it looks cool. And Honors, please forgive me for my blanking. Okay. We all said our ages earlier, so I can't help it. Once I know what genre I'm in, I do actually then stay away as far as writing goes. Like if I'm writing a novel and it's within one genre, I will read everything except that genre while I'm writing. Because I already know the genre. I don't want to be, and I find that when I was writing my second novel, it was noir fantasy. I didn't read any of those things. But I was reading about the giant squid, and somehow the giant squid made its way into that novel. So I try and keep my influences fresh and not from the same world. But then working with James, I have things in my head for the look of it. And then I do go and look at things and say, here's kind of the look I'm considering. I try not to give him too much because it's going to be James. But one of the cool things, you're talking about James's influences. One day I said to him, I said, I'm kind of imagining Otto Dix in German expressionism fading into Norman Rockwell. And he's like, oh yeah, I love Otto Dix. Yeah, I totally get that. And I'm like, I didn't know if that would make sense to anyone else. But his knowledge is so incredible that then he introduces me. He was talking about me being someone to bounce stuff off of. He'll draw a character that I had in my mind. This is the character. And he'll get it exactly right, except 7,000 times better. And I'll look at the character, and the plot will change. I'll be like, well, if that's what she looks like, then she also must be able to blah. Or occasionally, he'll draw a side character. He's got a picture on his portfolio from the big thing we're working on, and it's a girl in the subway car. He shows me this drawing. Our main character is behind her. I blanked out on him. I'm staring at this girl, and I'm like, dude, I just wrote that there was a girl standing in front of him. Now we're going to have to follow her into her story, too. She was so freaking alive. I'm like, I've already got her plot, and I just tied her in. Yeah. And that's really, really, really cool. But so I try to be very careful. I want my ideas to be original as anything under the sun is. And I'm so nervous about that I stay away from an area that I'm writing in. But I try and take influences from everywhere. Okay. James, and I don't know about you, James, with the art end.
Yeah, we've been in the game now for a couple of years. They're trying to do this ourselves, and I have found a great appreciation for a lot of comic artists, but I try not to study them too much. And I as an artist, I really prize originality over everything else. And I say this in a world where a lot of stuff is kind of rehashes and version 3 and 4 and 5 and a remake of this and a remake of that. I really prize originality in artwork. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why I like what I do. For better or for worse. I try not to. There has been a long learning curve, and now I think if you looked at my artwork now as opposed to, what was it, 4 years ago that we started doing this, there's a lot of comic influence in there now, and I find myself drawing more in comics naturally, when I'm sketching something. I try not to look at other stuff, and really my sort of ignorance with comics works for me. He'll tell me a lot of stuff, and I'll be like, who's that guy? And then I'll look it up, and I'll say, oh, yeah, okay, I see what you mean. But then I kind of try to make it my own thing, my own version of it.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. We got a lot of comments coming on, so let me go back a little bit because there were a couple here. Christian, you got one from someone named Sabina. It said, for Christian, would you say your eldest little sister is the light of your life and the inspiration for all things?
Unquestionably, with my littlest little sister Martine, and my wife and my mother as well. Did I do that right, guys? Well,
did you get it in the right order? I'm not sure. I think your wife's supposed to be first.
Sabina is about a block and a half away, and I can feel her looking at me right now.
I also got another one for Christian, says from Kieran. Christian, love the anthology, but I thought you'd be prettier. So anyway, Rob Riley says, Monty Python artwork and animation, James? Question mark.
Monty Python.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, like I said, the Ministry of Silly Walks.
Yeah.
And let me just finish this. By the way, cool fact I just learned: Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd were some of the money backers for Monty Python on the Holy Grail. I didn't know that either. That's awesome.
Yes, the Beatle. What's his name? George Harrison. He was. I think I got the right Beatle. I think George Harrison. He had a cameo in Life of Brian.
Did he?
I just saw the other day. It was he was briefly in it, and they had lost for Life of Brian, and him, being a Beatle, he had all that money. He actually funded the movie. It was a cameo in there.
Oh wow!
Huge influence. Yeah, I mean, just my comic sense of who my entire humorous my sense of humor. There we go. My sense of humor comes from Monty Python. It does. The Holy Grail. I mean, I grew up watching that. My next door neighbor was a huge fan of that. Ever since I was like 8 years old, we've been quoting Monty Python ever since. Just definitely a huge influence, and the animations in there are incredible as well. It's sort of stop action, intentional sort of hokiness of the animation in there. It's amazing. I love it. It's funny. I have a lot of blood from those isles. Scotland mostly, a little bit of Norwegian and some English, old English from French. And I swear, I think that blood runs so strong that I've always gotten like English humor and stuff. It's always been a part of me. I think by blood, that sort of dry English humor just runs in me.
No, that's. I'm actually a huge fan of that myself. And sometimes I always say, when I can't sell a joke here, I always say I got to sell it overseas somewhere, because I think my stuff would work better in Europe than it does in America sometimes.
There's an episode of Flying Circus. The sketch is that there's a son going up to the coal mines to work, and his father is furious at him because his father is a poet. And he wants his son to do an honest line of work like poetry. What is he ever going to accomplish with coal mining? And they take that joke and they just take it beyond as far as you can take it. And to me, whenever I think of them with all the great stuff they've done, that sketch comes back into my head because the premise is so specific and bizarre and genius. That when I think about things, I try and come at them from that kind of an angle. What's the least obvious way to go about this?
I do want to shout out another person because his comment. Elliot Rodriguez Art, who I feel I might know his work, says, "What's going on, guys? Great to see you guys on a live stream. I'm a huge fan."
Oh,
all right, yeah, we got to shout him out. What is it? Enigma.
I can, there are numbers after it.
All right, I'm going to shout him out. This guy is a great artist. He came to us like he wants to be involved with our next anthology, and he's definitely on our list. He's a great artist. He's forgive me if I'm wrong, Elliot, but I believe he's from Peru, and is a sort of fan of ours, and I've become a fan of his just watching some of his stuff. There you came right up. Nigma 85, NYGMA 85. And he's from, I'm going to mess it up, but Chorrillos, Lima, Peru. Okay. Great guy. We've been in contact with him, and you'll see some of his artwork on our next anthology.
All right. Elliot, anybody watching who has any type of social media, artist, writer, pop it in the comments. I want to check you guys out on my own. But, if you're here and they're shouting you out, I know you're good. I want to see your stuff, and just let everyone know where they can find you.
Dude, I got to tell you, the people we've met in the indie comics community, first of all, are so welcoming. right? I'm not going to say a couple of schmucks because I would never call James that, but a schmuck stumbling his way into writing comics. This community of creators are so welcoming and wonderful, and everyone's putting out this great stuff, and everyone's throwing their stuff at each other and open to conversation, whether it's Jay Sheik or Brent Harshman or Doug Wood or Curtis Cloud. There are all these guys doing incredible stuff, and I'm just so honored. And I'm not even naming 2% of them. Frankie White has been amazing, and if you know, he did 25th, which you need to get your hands on. We're so lucky, and then to work with guys like Matt and Purple and we at Purple Smurf, and
John makes comics. That's his test line, right? John makes comics.
So John is the Ron Swanson of comics, right? Oh, or is it? That hold on, you're right.
What's his Instagram?
Oh, I don't know Instagram.
Oh wait, no, yeah, I forget.
It was John Batusi Jack, I thought on Twitter. Maybe I got that wrong. Hold on. Here he is. Oh yeah, no, I'm right. John Batusi, like the Batusi, B-A-T-U-S-I Jack. And I mean, but we're so lucky. We just reached out to people, and they were down to hang, and the anthology came out of nowhere, and man, what a cool community. We're very
John Jack makes comics on.
John Jack.
I think so. Okay,
I'll check that out too. No, I was actually going to come to a question kind of about this because it seems you got these fans, all these great artists watching you guys tonight. You've been in this industry kind of a short time when you think about it. It's 4 years. But comics, I've been doing this since 97, as a comic artist, working in the indie world, and working for other companies and whatnot. And you get to meet so many people. I'm at the point now where I meet people and I'm forgetting names because I've met so many, and I don't like that because I've always been bad with names, but I'm great with things.
It's also age, Michael.
Yeah, that could be a tip. but it's just fantastic. You're right. It's rare that I meet someone who is kind of a jerk in the industry here. It is incredibly rare. And everybody is just working in comics. I have to say might be one of the greatest groups of people I've ever had the pleasure to work with. And you're meeting all these great people. You're doing all this stuff. How did your networking come about? Was it through social media you guys looking, or were you guys going to Comic Cons and meeting these people? What was going on?
Yeah, we haven't even been to a Comic Con yet. That's on the list. Of course, COVID has had a bit of a damper on that. We were planning on going out and starting to promote River, the first River, and Distributary River 2. That's what we're working on now. We'll be out imminently. We plan on putting that out and sort of pushing that at the Comic Cons, but we haven't been to one, so it's mostly been social media that we've been working with, and that's really where our first anthology came about, and that's more Christian's story. He was talking to some guys on Twitter. I'll let him take over that story.
So we talk about we've been working together for 4 years, right? But we were a submarine for like more than half of that. Run silent, run deep. We were just working, and we were actually working on the original comic, and so Mike, you got me writing comics. Then you told me about a contest that was going to happen at a comic shop I haven't mentioned this before, Yonkers. And you did, was it a 24-hour comic or something?
Actually, let me interrupt you there. I'm going to shout out because I always shout it out here. It's the comic shop I go to. It's a Spider's Web located at 887A Yonkers Avenue, across the street from the casino. Best comic shop in Westchester, in my opinion. And yes, it was a 24-hour comic book challenge, which I'm going to challenge myself to at the end of this month when I finally get when we go on the break, the holiday break for at the schools. I'm going to challenge myself on December 26th to a 24-hour comic book challenge. I'm going to stream it live for the full 24 hours on Twitch, and I'm going to bring on guests. So if any of you guys want to come on and chat and talk about it, and come on. You know, so I'm going to open invite to that. I'll talk about that at the end, though.
But so if you're doing that, I got to shout out Third Universe Comic Emporium on 35 and North Riverside Ave in Croton on Hudson.
Go for it.
They're an awesome comic shop. So I write this script, I send it in, I get rejected. I feel like it's just another day of existence. And but you know, I have a little tiny bit of an ego, and I'm like, Mike, what happened? I'm like, how come I didn't get this? And he said, well, he did because he can't use the script you already wrote. That was a sample. He said, you told me, correct me if I'm wrong. They didn't think anybody could write this in the amount of time. Yeah, dude, I wrote it in like 45 minutes.
Yeah, and if I remember, they also made a comment that your writing, they compared your writing to, who was it? Oh crap, I'm blanking on his name now. He wrote Watchmen.
Alan Moore?
Yeah, they compared your writing to Alan Moore.
I can't. I don't think I can keep writing comics. I am unworthy. I am right at the end of the new version, the master edition of From Hell, and I sit there. I'm reading it like 2 pages a night because I don't want it to end. It's amazing. I didn't remember that. So
you're gonna be like, I could have written this.
My level of genius is far, far, far below that. That's another apple rolling down a hill into an ocean. But so I had that script and I really liked it, but I didn't know anything about the comic world, and I didn't have any money to pay anybody to draw anything, and I didn't really know what was going to happen with it. And then James comes to me about working on a children's book together, and he has this really cool idea. He's got these great characters he's created for this really cool world. And I said, all right, well, you know, I've never written a children's book with illustrations. I wonder if I'd approach it like this. And I said, check out this script I just wrote for a comic. Would you want a script for the children's book written in this way as far as image layout goes? And it was like a day later, James comes to me with the first ever panel drawn for my comic of Pam walking down the street. Still one of my favorite pieces. And I didn't even know what to do seeing this. It was like, I wrote that and it exists and it's so much better. The mannequins in the background that I had just mentioned, there were mannequins in the background, were doing something. They were like part of the picture. And we decided to work on Finish together. And then we didn't really know what the hell we were doing. So I'd write a script and we'd get together. He'd start drawing it. I didn't know how to get it out there. And then shorter version of the story, when someone says that's already gone on too long, I meet the vice president of marketing for Deadpool, for Marvel, at the Deadpool 2 showing at Alamo Drafthouse.
Okay.
In Yonkers.
And I think we should be sponsored by the Yonkers Chamber of Commerce or something.
No, I'm happy to take that.
Throw us some money.
Yeah,
they can pay me in Catanias. So they he said no one. I said, how does an unknown pitch? And I watched his butthole clench up. I'm like, I'm not pitching you right now. Chill out, dude. I know, but how does an unknown pitch? And he says, you can't be unknown. He said, you know, the old, well, if you want to get a novel published, you have to publish the novel, right? So he said, you got to have work out there. And he said, don't put your baby out there. Start putting out some other comic. I started writing an offshoot of our world. And then I found Ed Brisson, who did Murder Book. He's got a new one coming out, the name of which I'm blanking on. He's an awesome writer. He just had artists wrote shorts for him. He'd write a short, put it up for free on his website. There it is. Murder Book. Oh, it's so good. And they're all short crime stories. And so I sat down. James and I talked. Said, let's do this. And we're going to bust out a bunch of short ones. And while I wrote, he drew. I am not a social media dude. Like, I have to work myself up to get on there sometimes because I just feel like I can get sucked in, you know. I got out there and started following. I wanted to see what other people were doing, but I started getting into conversations, and that is where we built our relationships. The people that we were at felt. I gotta hump this. Where is it? Where is she? Fellhound has just at Fellhound FELLOUND has just released Captain Rayo. And
Wow.
she has been so cool. It's a great book. We had a great time with it. She has been so cool to talk to. Her and Letter Squibs. And then Ryan, where is it? Ryan Burke put out Coronary, right? These people, Frankie White, this, Kate Bauman's art is alive in this book. And I forget who's coloring it, but they're now doing a colorized version. But Kate Bauman's art moves on the page. And Frankie White is the writer. It's something totally different. 25th. We've met these people, and I reached out to them. Doug Wood, who just had a Kickstarter, a successful Kickstarter for Ultramax, which has a badass premise. A minion kills a major superhero, almost by accident. And he goes to an Ultramax prison where everyone's out for him now. I cannot wait to it, right? But Doug Wood, I reached out to him. Frankie White, I reached out to him. I'm like, I regularly say I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, we want to do a Kickstarter. And everyone's like, dude, I'll help you out. Send me questions. I mean, I'm happy to talk to you. And that's, I mean, who knows who else I'm forgetting. The community is amazing. The making comics, make comics, independent comics, indie comics. Amazing. Absolutely an incredible group. And we're meeting the people that we're working with. I'm just thrilled. I'm honored, honestly, to know all these people.
That's great. That's fantastic. And like I said, I love the community. And when you guys start doing shows, talk to me. I know I've been doing shows, like I said, since '97. I know a bunch of shows. I'm still connected. A friend of mine and I, we put together a show called Incredicon. I don't know if you guys heard of it, but it was in Dutchess County, New York. And I took a step back just because I needed to. Again, I've shared on here my medical issues. Back in April and May, I had COVID. I was in the hospital. I had the whole thing. So, I took a step back from a lot of stuff that I was working on and reprioritized a lot of what I was doing. So I'm still connected with them, but Incredicon's a great show. It happens in malls. It happens very locally, great community of people. And I highly recommend, because Dutchess County is very close for both of you too. So it's a good show to check out. And when shows come back, I will be back at Incredicon myself.
We were putting our list together, man, because 2020 was going to be the year of getting out there. Yeah. And it's getting in there. Oh, that's what we were getting to, and I forgot. But if that hadn't happened, we would have been doing, who knows where we would have been doing the convention, but we probably wouldn't have done the anthology. Matt Smith and I were joking around. There was this art share going on, and this person had put up their first, what's it called? Portrait. Wow. This is why I'm the writer. And Matt wrote to this person really sweetly. I can't believe it's your first portrait. My first portrait looked like a piece of chewed up bubble gum fighting pencil shavings. And I wrote, dude, draw that now. And he did. And then I said, okay, I want to see how the fight turns out. And then I felt bad, so I sent him a little script. He didn't even see it because he was writing a 5-page freaking comic. He made it into a noir comic with a gum eraser tracing down a pencil killing, right? And so I said to him, I said, dude, I wonder how quick we could put an anthology together. This is like maybe beginning of April, end of March. I don't remember now. And I said, let's reach out to a couple of people. And we reached out, everyone but one person that we reached out to said yes. And that one person had a ton going on and had said that they want to work with us again. But that's how we met. Excuse me one second. Peter Paul Smith. I call him Purple Smurf so often that I forget. Which is not how he titles this guy. Peter Paul Smith. He works. Him and Matt.
I'm sorry to interrupt. He says Purple Smurf says Matt Queen.
Did I say Matt Smith? I put that.
I was like, you're talking to Matt Smith? Okay.
Matt Queen and Peter Paul Smith. And usually it's Smith Queen. All right, sorry. Matt Queen and and Peter Paul Smith. And they work together. They're doing, you got to go to @Tales of Zero, Tales, Tales of Zero. The El Sure Shot. Peter Paul Smith is also doing El Sure Shot. It looks awesome. I can't wait. But then we get to meet John Jack. And John Jack's got this really cool aesthetic. He works in all these different styles. And him and he let me jump into his sandbox a little for a crime comic recently that he had written. He let me play around with some of the dialogue. And we had him work with an old friend of mine, one of my best friends, Michael Flanagan. He one of my oldest friends. And it was incredible having all these people come together and put this together. But it happened. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. We didn't know how to release it. James, what happened the day we were going to release on Comixology?
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. I mean, I know getting into Comixology, I've known people who tried, and they have to have certain criteria to get in. So that's great. Congratulations on that. And let me say, we've been talking for an hour now, and we're just getting to your books, which is fine with me. I could sit. Look, I even told my wife before I came on, I said, listen, I haven't talked to these guys in years. I'm sure this is going to go longer than normal. Because usually I do about an hour. Sometimes I go a little longer than an hour. The longest I've ever done on Getting To is about 2 hours. If we have to go 2 hours, I'm cool with that. We go a little longer, I'm cool with that. We do less, whatever it is. But I want to bring up your website right now so I can show everybody out there.
Before you start, Marco, one of the things that we can say about Fugitive Poems is we're not a good business model. We haven't been. We're not good at promotion, so please promote us. Please put some stuff up there for us. We're doing a better job at promoting everyone else than we are our own stuff.
There's something that James and I have bonded over is that the two of us want to make art, and we suck at. So we just want it to be out there, and just someone let me just make more. But so thank you.
Well, let's start here since it's on the main cover here. The Fugitive Anthology, Commitment Breach. Containment Breach. Sorry, I read it wrong for a second.
Commitment Breach is going to be in my divorce.
Containment Breach. I do apologize. So tell us a little bit about how. Hold on, I'm on so many different screens here. Let me make sure I'm on this screen. Okay. Tell us a little bit about. And by the way, you could have gone here for all the names, Christian.
I brought up the comic on my screen.
So tell us a little bit, James. This is your work right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about how this came together. I mean, I heard, but I mean, sorry. Continue.
So this one's actually the header for River, though. So River was included in there, but that's not really part of the Containment Breach story.
Okay.
If you click on, well, actually, I don't see you can look at River for free.
Yeah.
Containment Breach. We don't have the content in there. It was we did include River at the end.
Okay.
But yeah, that is my artwork there.
This is great stuff here.
That's the cover work.
Yeah. Wow.
He is ridiculous. He's ridiculous what he does. He shows me something and it just blows my mind. Look, that cover came to James in a dream.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's a bunch of lunatics, meaning us under quarantine, trying to escape out of the mental institution. So you can see Christian in the front. Christian, whose pose I got from an orangutan, by the way, which is very fitting. I'm the one looking back at the camera.
Uh-huh.
The other guys, I feel a bond with these guys, but we've never actually kind of met in person. But I always pictured John Jack on the back of that other guy there, so he's the guy kind of riding the other guy, and that was sort of the idea, was this group of guerrillas sort of trying to escape the containment structure that's been put on all of us through because of COVID.
Yeah.
A way to express ourselves.
Is this all digital? Did you do this like watercolor? How did you put this together?
Nothing I do is exclusively digital. I always start off with pencil stuff. This was inked with markers and mechanical pens, and then I usually do a lot of coloring. Usually my coloring is digital, with a few exceptions. I think on this one, if you look on the detail work on the scrubs and so forth, that's more hand done, but it's always digitized, and then I usually do all my coloring digitally.
And are you coloring in Photoshop, or are you color a different software?
I've been using Clip Studio Paint as well, but that's a relatively new thing. This would have been Photoshop.
Yeah, I love Clip Studio. It's a great program.
Yeah, I've been trying to, I've been getting more and more into that, and there's so many tools in there that are so specific that are great for comic artists, especially coloring and stuff.
I love that you can draw in vector, but it looks raster. Like the tools. Like I just did a children's book that I wrote and illustrated. I got to get it up on Amazon sometime this week. But that's how I did it. I drew it all in vector, and then I colored raster in the software. And then, it was.
I love the option where you can use other layers as your reference for the paint bucket. Mm-hmm. So you can reference another layer and use the paint bucket, and it'll use that as a reference, and you can also overbleed underneath your line art. So especially for like flatting, it's so great and easy for flatting.
Yeah.
It's a great tool. Yeah.
And I heard they're updating it. The new update will include stuff for digital comics like Webtoon publishing and stuff. So.
Oh yeah.
That's an interesting feature. I don't know when that's coming out or if it came out, but I'm on this. What is it called? I belong to this group about children authors and illustrators because I do mostly kid friendly work. And someone was talking about it in like the tech talk that we were having one day. So, but yeah, no, I think that's going to be interesting because I've been thinking about putting something to Webtoon. So it'd be nice to see how that integrates.
If you see our work, we're just for the viewers out there, we're not kid friendly.
Yeah, well, I
unless you got really disturbed kids.
Well, let me tell you.
Or if you want really disturbed kids.
That's the one.
I will say this. My show isn't always kid friendly. So I don't mind. I mean, when I do my teaching, that's kid friendly. But when I do this stuff, I want to promote great stuff I'm seeing out there. I don't care because I don't read just kid-friendly stuff. I just like doing that as art because that was influencing me. I grew up on Uncle Scrooge comics, and I mean, I did superhero stuff too. But I always loved that kid fun stuff where I felt a lot of comics were getting away from the fun in mainstream. So I started reading more and more independents. And as I read more and more, and this has been for years, even before like I probably even knew you guys, I've been reading independent books. And I find that the stories are better. And it doesn't have to be a superhero story. I've read some great autobiographies from artists telling stories about just traveling cross country. And I'll just read anything. I've always said my joy of comics and the reason I love them so much is because anyone can make a comic. You're limited to your skill with the pencil and your imagination. If you could think it and draw it, you can go to that place. You could share it with so many other people. You can tell the stories that way. So for me, it doesn't matter. I mean, as a rule, I don't usually read horror. I'm just not a horror fan. But I've read some great horror comics out there, So it's just you put something in front of me, I'll read it. So when I see work that I like, and this isn't because I know you guys that I brought you on, it's because I see the work you're putting out. And I want to share this. I want more people to have their hands on this type of work that's out there. And that's why I wanted you guys on tonight. Is because, I knew as a writer, first of all, I knew your writing and I knew your art and I knew when I heard you guys teamed up, I knew something great was going to come out of it. So,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Like I said, thanks for putting stuff together, putting stuff out here. Anything else you want me to click on here? You want me to click on River? What's that? Thermo?
You probably shouldn't click on River if you want any of the family friendly to stay.
Okay, well,
I mean, it's sort of a biology class. So I write this thing where this guy leans into a doorway and he gives, because they're in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and he delivers the line because there's all this sci-fi stuff in there. He goes, well, that sure ain't Amish. And then a laser, I write, slices the front of his face off. And so I thought that's going to be cool. I'm imagining a spatter of blood and the face falling off, right? James comes in, he shows this thing to me. This guy studied the anatomy of the human face, a cross section. Like, all of a sudden, I understood my lifelong allergies. I'm like, the sinuses go that high? No wonder I always have a headache. If you look at that frame, the bisection of the dude's face is 100% and anatomically accurate. And this is working with James.
All right, now we got to show it. Now that you're going to mention the
yeah. But before I show it, I got two comments. One's a question for James here that says, "Have you ever tried dip pens or brushes or line for line work when you're working traditionally?" And the other one is from Rob. Is that SIAC that says owl stare? So I don't know. Maybe you guys know what that one means. But can you, James, answer that question?
Psych, Rob Psych. Yeah.
I apologize. I'm terrible.
He's from one of our writers group.
Rob Psych.
Yes.
Rob Psych.
The dip pen has become a more recent thing for me. I got a speed. I like to use Speedball.
Mm-hmm.
102. Little tiny. There's my camera. 102 dip pen. I'm into all things metal, not just music, cars and so forth. So I actually, this is a Jam Lines innovation. I actually blued the tip on this, and I've been getting good results with it.
So hold on, you glued the tip together.
Blued it. So if you look up, you can blue the rifling of a rifle. So I basically heat treated this, and you can see if you look closely.
You know what? Hold on. Let me give you the screen. Give me 1 second.
If you look closely, there's it looks like an exhaust or something. There we go.
Oh yeah. I see it.
So it looks like a motorcycle exhaust. I blew the tip on this because I think it works with adhesion on the ink itself, and I've been using. I've been using the Speedball series.
Yeah.
Good stuff here. Great ink here. It's stuff that I've gone in and out of, and I always had a larger one of these, the quill pen tips. I used to use this one a lot, much larger. I don't know what the number is on this, but when I started following this guy, ironically, on Instagram, a French artist, Dennis Rodier, does French comics and stuff. And I would sit and watch on Instagram. He does like the live feeds of him actually drawing. I was so obsessed with watching him that I got the same tools that he was using. So yeah, I've been that kind of stuff was used a bit on the our submission to Containment Breach, which was Shelter in Flames. I used that. I guess you'd call it old school technology on that. And I've been getting more and more into wanting to do traditional, inking and stuff, and not, like I said earlier on, I always start with pencils and so forth. And earlier on, I used to just kind of translate my pencil stuff using a light board. But now I've been trying to do stuff kind of more native in ink and so forth. And gotten, to the point with the quill pen where I'm not, blotching out, big ink blots and stuff, although that does still happen every once in a while. But yeah, I do love the dip pens. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't used the dip pen since I got a cat. So it's they
Mhm.
end up crawling on the tables and wanting to, knock over your inks and stuff. So I tend to use brush pens these days. But
Yeah, I do use, big fan of uh, these sort of brush pens.
yeah, is that the? I'm sorry, you're small now. Is that the Micron there? The like
Yeah.
the
Well,
that,
this one is the Micron series brush pens.
yeah.
I do a lot of that. I will use regular paintbrushes too sometimes for washing inks and so forth. Uh,
Mhm.
More so, not a lot of what you'll see in my comics yet, although you can see it right there on the cover of Containment Breach. So that's sort of a newer thing, and you're going to see some of that in my future work, definitely.
Okay, well, we're
Hey,
gonna put
Mike,
yeah.
just so this is the kind of pen I'm using right now.
Is that
I'm very happy with it. Yeah, no, it's actually here
hold
you
up?
go.
Let me see.
There you go. It's
Oh,
very good, and I'm
that's
finding that I'm getting very good lines with it. And for color, I've had a lot of success with that. I
I
just
will
wanted to be a
say I will say that the Uniball pen that you're using is one of my favorite to write with.
the needle. It's phenomenal. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really good.
it's a great. I buy them by the box.
Some of my productions.
All right, let's check out now.
I'll give updates on my blued tips, and I'll give a little tutorial on my Instagram. So follow me on Instagram, and I'll
Oh, totally, and
on my technology changes.
and your Instagram is just Jam Lines, right?
Yes, Jamlines on Instagram or Jamlines2112 on Twitter. Someone stole my Jamlines account. Like, what was that, Christian? Someone selling like some weird thing back in 2012 or something.
It was phone covers or something, and they haven't since.
Haven't done a single thing on Twitter since, but it was back in 2012. They used some Chinese company selling phone covers or something.
Well, it's Marjorie Jam. She's got one follower and she's following one person. And her last, she was giving away a used iPhone on September 21st, 2011.
Yeah. So if you're out there, Marjorie, please release Jamlines for me. So the 2112 reference is that's a Rush reference. And I always support my my music, and rest in peace, Neil Peart. We lost him this year.
We did.
I do want to say, C. Thomas Anderson says, very cool. Dip pens are always a big learning curve. The G pen is great for characters, and the Kabura are good for backgrounds if you want to branch out. I'm not too familiar with the Kabura pen. I know the G pen.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up. But I got to say, the cover to River, already I like. I mean, you're talking about James knowing this is a biology class, knowing the the sections of the body. Like you see the muscles on the left hand, on the right hand, it's the skeleton. Just already fantastic. And I won't. Go ahead.
So James prints that out for me, and I bring it home, and I come back, I go back to the table, and Dashiell, my oldest son, had started coloring it in. And he asked James to print out more of it. We got this badass skeleton hands, and my little boy, he's 8 now. He was 6. He's carefully coloring them in. He asked James. My 4-year-old Zachary has seen them. He wants his own now.
So now
for the script,
James,
let me just say this: the script says something about a field littered with bodies, right? That's pretty much what it says in the script. And this first panel is what James gives me, and that's James. Just like, holy crap! The hand coming to the frame and that bullet hole that you can enter and move into for a while. Amazing. I love work. James's work blows me away.
Yeah, no, I gotta say, I was gonna just ask. I know you said you don't really look at other artists for influences, but do you look at at references for faces, or are these just from people you know? Like, I'll say when I read the first 2 pages, but I was doing this at my day job, and I had to stop. I do plan to go back and read it. I was loving it. But the first time I saw this guy, I kind of thought a little Mel Gibson-y, going on here. The guy in panel 3 here, who's over here, but I don't get Mel Gibson from here, so I was just curious.
So that's Detective Sutton. He's one of the main characters here. Now, I will look at different people's faces to try to get a conglomeration. A lot of times they are sort of celebrities just because there's a lot of pictures of them, but I wasn't looking at Mel.
Okay.
Who was my original? I was actually looking at what's his name? Vincent D'Onofrio.
Okay.
Who else was I looking at for him? Yeah, I do try to get certain facial characteristics. Once again, I can't stop talking about it, but he's got Lemmy Kilmister's bumps on his face. Lemmy Kilmister was the front man for Motorhead. He's got those telltale moles, I guess, on his face. So I did borrow those from him. So that's another shout out for Motorhead. But yeah, he's kind of a conglomeration of that type of person. Who else was I looking at for him? I think the dude, I couldn't even tell you his name, but the guy from one of the Stallone movies, I think it was Cobra. The bad guy in the movie Cobra had these oversized jowls on his mouth, and he would actually flex them in the film when he was trying to act all badass. So that's kind of where I got that sort of oversized jowl look, was that dude. I couldn't even tell you what his name was.
That's funny because you've almost got him in Brian Dennehy's coat from First Blood. So there's a lot of
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Which, by the way, First Blood's like my all-time favorite movie. But I have to
movie.
What? I'm sorry.
What a movie! It's so good,
fantastic.
Oh, and the other character that the African American dude, the guy in like the SWAT uniform, he's I was looking at Mahershala Ali a lot for him.
Okay. I have to say though, so far on page 1, my favorite panel is panel 4 right here. Okay, I don't know why it's doing. Okay. Just the way you have this face, like kind of, shot up. It looks like just fading. It's just the horror on this person's face is fantastic, and just having this little crow or whatever type of bird is hanging off on this guy's nose just cracked me up when I first saw it.
Yeah, that one. So it's funny. Like me and Christian always joke that someone's going to come after me for my Google searches based on what I do here. It's actually, I was looking at a lot of pictures of Russian dead from World War II, and the Blitzkrieg up into Russia and stopping at Stalingrad. There's all these pictures of all these poor peasant souls that died, defending their homeland from the Nazis. And there's just like all these pictures. So that a lot of those were real soldiers that gave their lives in World War II. And, I just, I wanted to really capture that feeling of being frozen in ice and almost like, suspended animation. So I was looking at a lot of that. That's how I got those poses and so forth.
Excuse me. Do you want me to continue scrolling down, or do you want me just to use this as the way to get people's mouths watering to come to your website and finish the story?
Yeah, well, the face severing is coming up. Right? Maybe we'll finish off on the face, and if you want to see the rest, you guys can go. This one's up for this one's up for free, and a lot of these characters that have made it have not been sliced up for distributary too, so you'll see them.
Wow.
This is Volta
River
here.
2 is on its way, and the story has just blossomed. So this is up for free now, and River 2 will be out soon. There's the cover, right? There's the drug at play.
Mm-hmm. I got
There's a profanity.
Right here, the way the jaw is broken here and hanging up. Oh, beautiful. and I gotta say, just this is coming from an artist. Even the way you drew the pencil, it's just like it's like perfect,
right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Is this where it's coming up? I don't want to.
Yeah,
Next page after that.
It's the next page after this one.
Because I only read the first 2 pages, like I said. So
I love, I love this page because I love the 2 left close-ups getting closer, and the whole thing is moving in, and this is where the genre of the story changes, which was my goal, and James just knocked it out of the park. I wanted to surprise people that this was sci-fi. I wanted it to just come across as noir at first. Crime, not really noir, but crime. And then this happens.
Now, let me ask you, whose design choice was it for the black outlines and then the white frame inside? Was that yours, James? Or?
You mean the white lines around the...
Yeah, the white lines around, not around the people, around the border.
That's all me, yeah. Christian sort of looks at, he gives me input and stuff, but really the visual stuff's all mine.
Okay. It's great. It's a little different than what you normally see, and it like makes every panel pop.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I picked up, reading about how different people do comics. It's a good way to separate your characters from the backgrounds with the white lines. It kind of draws your eye in.
Yeah.
And gives them good separation, especially in a black and white piece like this. You want to keep it separate so that's what those white lines are there for.
This is amazing. And I already started seeing in the first panel, as I was scrolling down, I'm like, I got to pull it back. But you guys,
here you go.
Oh my God! Maybe I'll just stop right here. I won't go further down. You guys,
that's it.
This. And he looks like the type of character right here that you'd feel sorry for, just like
Bob.
It's just like he's just looks like he's like a guy who struggles, tries to be a good guy, walks in and
which makes his demise all the more perilous, right?
Yeah. Oh my God! But you're right. You did the brain perfectly. The sinuses. I will say,
I'm not kidding. When I saw the sinuses, I understood my life.
Yeah. Oh my God! Everything is great. You really are.
Do you see the tip of the tongue coming out of the face?
Yeah.
They bisected teeth. It's amazing.
Oh my God, that is great. Dude, you really know your stuff, I gotta say. Amazing stuff here. Oh, I'm sorry that I'm looking down at it and not at you guys on screen. It's on my Cintiq in front of me as my dual monitor. So I'm looking down and just in awe here. I'm like, wow.
Well, I'm going to tell you, James is seeing what James can do. Every script, I throw another curveball out. And he has hit every single one. I threw one out that he changed it on me. He's like, yeah, if you want that, it'll look like this. And it's not going to look as good as this. And I'm like, my brain is immediately like, no, I want what I wrote. And then I saw what he did. And I'm like, oh, that's all right. Well, I don't know who's more damaged than the other person, but we're going with that.
Wow.
So there's some really rough stuff coming in part 2.
I gotta say, when you two found each other in a writer-artist partnership, it was like a match made in heaven. This, I gotta say, and it's funny because I was telling my wife this. I don't know if it was today or some time ago when you came up, Christian, in conversation when I was talking about the comics, like my schedule, and I said to her, I am so happy that Christian and James are working together. I said, Christian wrote a fantastic script for me, but I don't know if I'm ever going to do his story as much justice as James can do for the work that he writes. It's you guys just, it was like you guys kind of share a brain in a way. You write something, you're like, I want this. James like, you got it. This is exactly what I'm thinking. And it just matches.
Yeah, it's our synchronicity is just, it is somewhat spectacular. Whenever we talk about anything, literally sparks fly. Like we, when we're at work together or something, we would stop in the hallway and just talk about stuff, and it's just it's literally a match made in heaven. It couldn't be more perfect. And it almost sounds like we're happily married or something. We don't fight about anything. We don't, we just it's such a great experience to work with Christian. Just everything that we do is really in sync. Like we don't ever have to have that conversation where like, oh, I really don't like what you did, and this is kind of scary, and there was one story that Christian kind of freaked me out a little bit with his writing, but that has been one little thing, and that was just that
was the shout out earlier from our friend.
That's not even worth talking about, because we never really pursued it. Once we start getting in there, it's just we really kind of we work off each other. And the pretty lady here at the top here, her name is Volta. She started off in Christian's script. She was like Tech 1 or something, and he didn't even specify sex. So she turned into now she's like a main character, and that's all developed from just the way I was drawing it. And then he went from how I drew her, and he started writing her different, and she turned into a more of a scientist. She's more like a science character, like into the logic and stuff at the crime scene. And then we have another tech that you saw earlier, Japanese American woman. She's more of a sort of bomb tech and stuff. And all that kind of came out just from me interpreting the script. In some cases, just kind of simple stuff, and then other things, he helps me draw and I help him write, which is cool.
No doubt. Check this out. He hands me a page. You can look at this.
Give me one second. Let me give you the screen so we can see it. And by the way, before I do, I want to say Evan Knapp says they're phenomenal in tandem and gorgeous on their own. Agreed. Perfect pairing.
Evan, you're a stunner yourself, sir.
All right.
James gives me a proofing page, right? And then I take it. Now I see what it's going to look like, right? I had it in my head, but this is something totally different. He's brought it to life. And then I take that, and then this happens on the back of that. And this is that back and forth. I'm like, okay, well, we got to redo the panels now. Okay, now that and very often I'll be nervous. I'll go to James and like, dude, you're gonna kill me, but I kind of think now it should go a different way. And he'll be like, yeah, I was hoping you'd see that when you saw how I drew it. It's just leading me right there, and it works. We work so well together. Oh, here we go. Ready, James? I know it's complicated on the page. I've written it a couple of times. I'm trying to simplify it. But just so you know, this is what I have in mind.
Hold on. Yeah, just look. Wow. Okay.
This is a Christian drawing page. This is my panel. This is my page.
Are those? Oh wait. I gotta ask. At the top, were those guys with guns?
Yeah. Obviously. I mean, dude, wait a minute.
Let it focus for a second. I don't know.
Yeah, there they are.
Yeah.
Bam.
Oh, that's one of my favorite ones with the female mammary glands up at the top. in the first panel, I actually you should zoom in on that one. That's a great one.
I'm looking at some of James's drawings. And I noticed that the women have nipples. I'm like, why are they their clothes? Why? And he explained to me that she's running. It helps him figure out the direction of things. So I started drawing like that as well. The Shelter in Flames. This was my idea for the cover of Shelter in Flames.
Let it focus for a second. Okay.
There you go. That little ant on dynamite. I thought it was pretty brilliant. If you look at the anthology, what he came up with was just a little bit better by me taking a snapshot to Ansel Adams. But this is these are the things. I'll tell you this and I'll shut up. One night a line came into my head, and it turned out to be a poem. And I didn't know where it came from. I very rarely write poetry, but I had an image in it. Where the hell is it? To be shed for the place of the anvil, scions of the hammer, hammered, harrowed, beaten to new life, better life was the line. And I didn't tell him anything about it, just because it popped into my head, and this idea of the hammer and the anvil. Well, the next day, he shows me the logo for Fugitive Poems. We had been bouncing around some concepts. Nowhere was there. You can take me off the main screen.
I was going to right now because you mentioned the logo, so I'm going up to it.
Yeah, nobody wants to look at me that closely, trust me. But he tells me, he goes, look at this. And I'm like, dude, you're kidding. And I show him this poem I had no intention of showing him, because the night that I wrote that line, he came up with that logo. And I don't, honestly, out of all the stories, that's, to me, that's the one. That's the synchronicity.
Yeah. This is the largest. You don't have a bigger picture of your logo on here, but it's great. I love it. My favorite thing, I'll be honest, the first time I looked at your logo, I didn't notice the hammer and anvil. I noticed how the M looks like doors and light is coming out of it, and I'm like, that's just really cool. And then I turn around, I'm like, oh, there's a hammer.
That's it. So the M is a forge.
Okay. So it's the fire, but okay.
If you click on Containment Breach, you can see the logo in the back of the book.
I think I might have it on my
right here.
My portfolio. Well, that's the icon.
Yeah.
But I think I might have Fugitive Poems on my portfolio site.
Oh, we can go to that. What is that?
It's Jamlines. My portfolio.
.com.
.com. Yeah. I think I had that logo. I think I put that logo up there.
Just making sure I spelt everything right. We don't need to go to some dirty site or something, right?
You already have.
Try it. Yeah. You're already here. Go to graphic.
Graphic. Okay.
If you were
there it is. And you can click on that and make it bigger.
Nice. That is nice. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's so cool. I was so awed by it when he did it.
Yeah, and I just love the font. Was that an actual font or something you kind of made up on your own?
I forget. I saw something like it somewhere else. I think it was like a tagline for a video game or something. I like the way the F and the P sort of ran off into negative space. Mm-hmm. It wasn't an F and a P in the thing that I had found, but no, it was not a. It's not a font.
Okay. No, that's great. Great. I've always said you do amazing work, and so this comic here. So.
Oh, can you click that the lady's face top left?
This one.
Yep. That's the panel with the girl I fell in love with there. Our main character is on the right, with the glasses.
The girl or the
guy? Woman on the left. The guy.
Okay.
The girl with her hand on the glass.
Yeah.
She's just an extra that now she's a character in the script, because I was so taken with this particular image. This is what's coming. So we got together to write a comic. I have more than half of it written. I'm sure I've got to go back. I've learned a lot about writing comics since then, but I got more than half of it written. I know the world. I have an offshoot of it written that's going to be next. And we just kept backing up more and more to get our work out there so that we could put this out. Fugitive Poems is heading for a contained arc story.
Okay.
Maybe it'll be 24 issues. I don't know. I don't know exactly how long it'll go. But that's what James and I got together to make a particular story. And working together, we've found so many more. So we're sort of slowly getting out there. No rocket speed here. We both work a ton of jobs, but we're making great stuff. And I just could not. What he's done with this comic here that we're looking at, this is my baby. This is the thing that I looked at and I said, this isn't a short story. It's not a novel. It's not a screenplay. I want to write a comic. And I couldn't be luckier that I met James, that he's so incredibly talented, that he's willing to work with me, and that he does this to the stories. So this is incredible, and there's going to be big stuff coming from Fugitive Poems. Stick with us. We got families, we got jobs, we got all kinds of garbage, but we're working, and there's going to be some great stuff coming out of it. And thank you to everyone else in the community who's been awesome with us. And thank you to you, Mike. How cool is it to get to talk to you?
Oh, I love it. I'm happy to do this. Let me just ask you. I wanted to know. I got a couple more questions, but number one, how did you come up with Fugitive Poems as your business title?
That's when I was in college, I could not understand the obsession with the Gothic and Romantic poets.
Okay.
As I've gotten older, I have completely fallen into the drama and melodrama of them. Whether it's Lord Byron or Shelley, I happen to really like John Keats and his posthumous work.
Mhm.
I'm reading his poetry one day, and I realized that the book it came from was a posthumous work called Fugitive Poems. And I said, that is the greatest thing ever. So our name is an homage to John Keats, who actually factors into this comic that we're looking at here. John Keats factors into the storyline of that comic. So it's an homage to John Keats, and I just thought it was so cool. And James loved it, and immediately, like everything, I think I think something is cool. He makes it visual and infinitely cooler.
That's awesome. So you're up on Comixology, you said, which is great. Again, congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Where else can people find your work?
Well, that same one is also available on Gumroad.
Okay.
Which is where we started selling. And then fugitivepoems.com. Right now, that's the main places that we are. We have a couple of comics out in a few different places. We're about to. I'm thinking that we're about to release one of the comics soon from Containment Breach on the site, but not quite yet. But we've got River 2 on the way. But right now, those are the main places that we are.
Okay. So in addition to that, now everything's digital for you guys. Did you not print because of everything going on, or was that just your business plan, if you will, saying we're just going to go digital for right now?
Well, that the Containment Breach anthology, I also I don't know, what would you call my role, Christian? A production designer. So I sort of put the book together.
Your role was everything. James built Containment Breach. I wrote Shelter in Flames. I talked to Matt Queen and got an idea, and because I got an idea, James did 7,000 million hours of work. So I mean, he built that magazine.
I actually assembled the thing together with the thought of being able to put it out in print. So it's actually registered at 600 DPI. So we could go and turn it out as a print. We just thought, because of our relative non-notoriety right now, that it would be, more economically feasible just to, see how it does digitally. It did okay. I mean, I think it did good considering what we wanted to do with it. But, it wasn't like a huge success. We didn't want to get stuck, being graybeards as we are. All three of us, we're kind of beyond making 8,000 copies and having them in our closet and trying to give them away as,
Christmas presents and Christmas presents, folks,
and wallpaper and stuff like that. So we decided not to go that route because we all got a little gray in our beards. So, but if there's a want or a need out there, I actually did assemble the book together at 600 DPI, so we could we could put it out as print, and we do have plans to put out River, which we're going back and forth about how many issues of that there's going to be, but eventually River is we are gonna print that out, and that's going to be kind of our calling card at Comic-Cons and so forth.
And
we're going to be starting very shortly on the second containment breach on our next anthology. And one of the things that we want to keep doing with it, we got individual pinup art in there, as well as a couple of essays in there, with the comic stories and other little pieces. I want to keep that zine feel. It's going to be a comic anthology primarily, and the next one's going to have a lot more comics in it because we're going bigger. We know more people, and but we're going to also have little, flash fiction pieces of writing, and then like pinup art. Patrick Hood, if you're out there, you're going to be getting a call from me at some point. And just I want it to be. I love the anthologies that come out, and I want this to have a little bit of a shakeup to it. Maybe because I'm a graybeard. I don't know if I want to embrace that yet, but I think back to the zines of the late '80s, the early '90s, and I dug that they were this sort of amalgam of types of art.
Yeah, no, I mean, comics when you look back at them, going even back to the 50s, 40s, they were basically anthology books. You'd get a superhero story, a romance story, sci-fi story. You'd get all the funny animal, all these great blending. And they weren't always themed within the same within the same like genre. So it was just nice that back in those days, for whatever it was, a dime, you can go get 20 great stories. And what do you got there?
Check this out. This is one of those older kinds. It's got 3 very different stories in it. Unfortunately, it's pretty beat up. I think it was one of the few my father had. My father grew up in the Bronx and was tough and cool. And I don't think he knew what to do with me when I started getting into comics. I think he was expecting James and he got Christian, but he was always proud of me and always 100% supportive. But he didn't quite know what to do with me reading comics. But this was one of his, and it's that kind of thing. Tales, right? It's Tales of the Mysterious Traveler. Talk about a title you could put anything in, right?
Yeah, no, that sounds great.
What's cool though too is anthologies are hot now. They're starting to come out in other media. Like I don't know if you've seen the Black Mirror series.
Yes.
Or,
no, Black Mirror I haven't watched yet, but I'm going to. It's on my list.
So those are great anthologies. They they have a similar theme, but they're very each one's a different story. I don't know if you guys have seen the Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Oh,
yes.
That's a great a Western anthology there. So the sort of format's becoming hot, very hot. So
yeah. No, that's great. I mean, you guys are hitting it at a perfect time. And the reason also I'm asking about print books is because I don't know how much you follow about the mainstream comic world, but there's talks and rumors that they're not doing as well as the independents are, and that there's a chance 5 years from now, maybe 10 years, who knows, shops might not be around. And everyone's saying right now the independents are going to be the savior to comic shops.
I want print. I want print. Yeah.
Now I'll be the first guy to say I'm old school. I want to read a book in my hand, but that doesn't mean I don't buy digital books. I was on what's the website, Indie Planet, a few weeks ago, and they're partners, I think, with Kablam, the comic printing company, and you can buy from Indie Planet a print book or a digital book. And I bought some digital books just because, if I showed you my studio, you would see I have a very small room, and this is the only room my wife will let me keep comics in. So it's one of those things where I can't bring in a lot of stuff anymore. So they got to be really specific of what I'm purchasing. And but they had like a free thing. They had like over 400 or 500 books for free that you can download. So I downloaded like literally 40 comic books, and I haven't read all of them yet, but I've read about 8 or 9 of them, and they were fantastic. I mean, great indie books that if they were on the shelves in a store, I would stop and go look at. So if you guys are looking at print, I don't know when you guys should be attacking stores, but I think that might be something to think about in the future, in the next year or so.
We're trying to figure out, or trying to get. We want to do a Kickstarter so that we can do print books, And we want to see that's what independent creators are doing now. So we're in the process of figuring that out. It's sort of I'm a babe in the woods with it, but we want print. We want print books. I want to be able to bring stuff to local comic stores. Uh, I love print. I love that medium, and I'm dying to hold Containment Breach 1 in my hand. So I mean, a flip through River would blow my mind, and that's where we want to go eventually. I would hate not to do that.
Yeah, I think it's a cool combination. I mean, you can go. We keep talking about Containment Breach. You can go. You can buy that for $3. You can go. You can either buy that or you can go buy a Starbucks coffee or something. So it's great in what it is as well. I know comics aren't heavy priced, but I think that instant access thing is an important thing to a lot of people. Not just because of COVID, but I think it's that instant access which is cool as well. So I do like seeing the print. I will like seeing the print version of this stuff, but I've never really been against the digital format either.
Yeah. And by the way, James has mentioned how poor we are at which I can't even think of the word, to promoting ourselves. ComiXology, Containment Breach, Fugitive Poems Anthology, $2.99. We wanted this to be accessible. You've got to see Matt Queen's art. You've got to see Purple Smurf, his story, and his colors. John Jack, Mike Flanagan. River is in there as well, and it's cool to see it in the context of the whole thing. James has some incredible art in there, like some terrifying stuff. Capping COVID being one of my favorites.
And I got him right here. I'll pull him out.
Oh, do you have him there?
Hold on, let me give you the screen.
Hold on, keep talking. I gotta hold.
Yeah. Matt Queen, Paul Smith, John Jack, Mike Flanagan, James and I. It's an incredible book. There we go.
Wow, beautiful.
Oh man, harrowing.
I don't know if he's gonna.
I can see it. I mean, it's the light's shining a little bit towards the top.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
It's the COVID. Jeez.
This is fantastic.
Beautiful.
Man.
Yeah. I mean, it's terrible. Yeah.
He's
in there. You can get him. But $2.99. We wanted it to be something everyone could get. It's perfect for you're at work and you don't want to work. You can pop something on your screen that makes you look like you're working. For only $2.99. It's a bunch of great stories.
And here's a Get In Tune exclusive. This is the original.
Oh wow!
I was just drawing a clown.
That is fantastic. I love it.
That was the first iteration of Captain COVID.
Nice. Just your use of lighting, light and shadow, just amazing. Hold on, we got a couple of comments. Halo says, "So sorry, all I have to run, but you all rock. This was amazing, so thank you." And Sabina,
Halo, you get that.
And,
yeah, we've kind of turned this into like a feature film length now. Only our real fans are here now.
Fine with me, man.
If you're here, you're our real fans. Get on our mailing list.
By the way, does your website have a mailing list?
Well, that's something I'm trying to track.
It would be really great if you guys could, if you're interested in getting on our mailing list. This is one of the things that we gotta do for a Kickstarter. Is a real mailing list going. To be honest with you, we've neglected that a bit. So if you guys want to be on our mailing list, just use our contact sheet on fugitivepoems.com. Just write us anything and say, just say in there, I want to be on your mailing list. We'll definitely stick you guys on, and you guys can be part of sort of our new thing. We've been, like Christian said, we've been in submarine mode for a couple of years. We really kind of are brand new to this. So you guys can be in at ground level when we eventually do sort of figure out Kickstarter for ourselves. So we'd love to hear you guys through that contact, or just directly. It's Christian. We just use first name, right, Christian?
Yeah, Christian at fugitivepoems.com.
Christian at fugitivepoems.com. We didn't quite figure out how to get mine up there. We're not exactly tech savvy, but Christian's does exist, so you can email him directly. We would love to have any of you guys on our mailing list. That would be great.
And if you're interested in being in an anthology, shoot us a note. Maybe a little bit of your work or whatever. There's going to be a theme. That's one of the things I loved about our first one, is that Matt Queen and I talking, we're like, well, it's got to be quarantine related because we're trapped in this hell. Can we make some fun with it, right? And a lot of people, Mario Candelaria did a great pandemic anthology as well. I hope I said his last name correctly. The other Mario C, I think is his Twitter handle. But we wanted to do that. And I said, all right, so here's the deal. And here's how this works. Every team had to give the other team a quarantine-based prompt. Somewhere in the world of quarantine. It didn't have to be about COVID. So Matt Queen and Peter Paul Smith, Purple Smurf, gave us our prompt that led to Shelter in Flames. We gave Michael Flanagan and John Jack their prompt that led to Virus at the Zoo, and they gave Matt Queen and Peter Paul Smith. It went on. It was really cool. You have to do a comic based on the prompt, the overall theme of the magazine, and then another group gives you a 2-word story. So Mike Flanagan and John Jack actually gave Queen and Smith their title, Better to Sleep Alone, which I think is incredibly cool. And they came up with the story from that. We have a theme for the next anthology. And then what we'll do is we're going to put teams together, and then each will set up who's going to give who a prompt. So I love that the Dadaists used to get together and give each other these weird games and idea prompts, and I love artists playing together like that. So that's what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, we're all about.
I'm very excited.
We would like to, if you guys want to send artwork and stuff to Christian as well, we could take a look at artwork. We're interested in either teams who are already set up with artists and writers, or we could try to hook you up with an artist and writer combo. We're actually also recruiting the possibility. It'd have to be the right person to work with knuckleheads like us, but we've entertained the idea of getting a colorist to work with us right now, basically for free, because we don't make a lot of money, but someone who might be interested in Fugitive Poems and contributing, doing some of the color work in future stuff, not so much River, but we're looking in particular, possibly a letterer as well. Right now I hold all those hats, let's say, so it's a lot of work on my shoulders. So we're looking for other people that might want some creative expression and don't really like money, just like us.
All right, let me give a couple of some of the comments, and then we're going to probably wrap up in a minute. But one of the comments I'm actually really interested in. So Sabita says, shout out to James, who made Last Christmas amazing for Christian's kids. I commissioned him to draw all of them as their favorite superheroes. So that's awesome. Rob Riley said,
in the playroom, and they're amazing.
Spider-Man, the Hulk, and Wonder Woman.
Yeah, Ariel and Wonder Woman diaper. That's amazing.
That's fantastic. Rob Riley says, congrats, guys. Keep up the awesome work. Great job, Mike. Thank you very much. And then we got one, and this is the question I'm really interested in. Schooly School says, how much did Mad Max influence your style, James?
That's my brother from another mother down in North Carolina. Schooly School is his latest iteration. Dude is a super talented guy. He builds show trucks and cars. He's like a fellow metalhead and car guy. Yeah, I mean, if I call myself a car guy, I'm just a faker. He really does it, man. The guy has like 50 cars in his yard and has made all these cool show trucks and stuff. What a great guy. His name's Scott. We went to high school together. Mad Max, the whole series is a huge influence on me. That's one of those the movies that kind of form your personality. Not so much the Mad Max one, but Road Warrior, the sequel. To me, I mean, I grew up watching that so many times, and it really, that apocalyptic thing, it's in my head. Like, it's always things that I think about with that. Definitely, it's great. Thanks for being here, Scott. He's a great guy. He's out of North Carolina, and his latest endeavor is Schooly School. He's been converting old vans and stuff into not vans, like school buses and stuff into like full-time RVs and stuff. Does really cool stuff.
Cool.
And he also like builds like sick hot rods on the side and stuff. He's just a great guy.
That's awesome. It's funny that you brought up Mad Max, like Road Warrior, something you watched a lot. I actually have, and I think it's one of those things that influenced me because I'm a big fantasy fan. And when I was a kid, the movie that I felt was on every week was Beastmaster. And I used to draw fantasy, like I got into He-Man and all that stuff. But like, that's that one movie that I'll watch. Only the first one, though. The others were, but it was just one of those things where it was like, I draw a lot of barbarians, and I got into D&D, and I got into all this stuff. And I think it was watching movies like that, and that influenced, a lot of my approaches. I
mean, the Road Warrior, Conan the Schwarzenegger, Conan the Barbarian. I can't even tell you how many times I've watched that. Beastmaster, just some of that First Blood. I can't tell you how many times I've watched First Blood. They're just those movies, and it's funny. Like kids these days, they haven't seen a lot of these films. You got to go out and you got to see these films that were first. They were the ones that made all the stuff that everyone kind of copies now. This is the original. Even the stuff like Predator and stuff was a little hokey at the time, right? It's Schwarzenegger stuff, and now compared to the sort of rehash stuff we get today, stuff was amazing. Just it was quite a time that we grew up in.
Yeah, no, we had a great era. C. Thomas Anderson says, "Keep up the great work."
Thank you.
I'm hoping to see more. I'm hoping to have you guys back on when you have your next anthology ready to go, or any book, anytime. You guys are always welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I'm going to wrap up just because of time. It's been 2 hours. I do have a day job in the morning that I actually have to go to. But I want to say
back here in a few hours teaching.
I want to say, number one, thank you guys for coming on. I had a great time. It was a pleasure catching up, getting to know you guys again, hearing about the great stuff, seeing the great stuff you guys are doing. Again, thank you for just doing it, because you're putting out there stuff that didn't exist before, and you obviously, just from the people who have been on, are building a great following, great friendships. You have a community already in there, and that's just fantastic. So, you guys, if there's anything you want to, promote or say anything outside of Fugitive Poems, or any last words you want to give, go for it.
Last words? What kind of camera show is this?
Last words you'd like to share with the audience.
I got to say, my wife has been supportive of every absurd and ridiculous thing I've gotten involved in. And she was never a comic reader. She, like James, was also cooler than me. But I got her into comics, and she knows what she likes and what she doesn't like. She reads ours. She is such a great editor and continuity. She's picking up on fingerless gloves versus she had no fingers on them before. But she mentioned things like the character wouldn't do that. She is a tremendous editor, hugely supportive of me, and I am incredibly lucky. And so thank you, Heather. I love you.
That's great. Congratulations on that. James, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, the last thing we talked about. I'll give another plug to Scott at his hot rod business, Attitude by Alchemy. He's like I said, based out of North Carolina. Great guy. You couldn't meet a nicer guy, and been very supportive of me. And I actually reconnected with him literally after it was about 25 years in between. And, I went down to North Carolina. It was like we picked up right where we left off. He's a great guy. You should definitely follow him. He's a whole different kind of creative type with metal, just a master.
Dude, you're on his homepage. Did you know that?
But probably I did a couple of variations of his logo and so forth.
Yeah, there's a photo of you on the homepage.
Is there? Yeah, I think that was from our trip.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I did his logo. I think the logo that I did is behind us on a banner.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or at least some version of it. He ended up going with a different, like a A or something, but great guy.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again for coming on. Hang out in the green room for a moment. I'll be right with you.
Hey, Michael, thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was my
Yeah,
pleasure.
thanks, Mike. It was great catching up with you.
You too. I really hope I get the word out more about your stuff to people. You know, I'll be sharing this in the next week or so again on social media. And if you guys tomorrow at some point, because for some reason YouTube takes a while to process this, but at some point tomorrow you can go on my YouTube page, get this link if you want to share it. I'll go for it. If you want the actual video, I'll download it and somehow get it to you so you guys can chop it up and do whatever you want with it.
Well,
Right.
you've given us the first act of the Scorsese movie, Time Watch. We're very grateful.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
I'll talk to you in a moment.
Bye, guys, and thanks for all the love out there in YouTube land. Yeah, we really appreciate it.
No doubt. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks a lot for everyone who joined in. Elliot, thanks. It says thanks Michael for a great show. You're very welcome. Great job from Rob Syke. You know, these two were just amazing to talk to. I'm happy that I know them. I'm happy that I could do this for them. But I just want to say, coming up in next week, I'm not going to name our guest yet because I'm just waiting on official confirmation, but I'm going to have a really cool guest on next Tuesday. The other thing that I want to do is just, if you want to follow me on Facebook, I'm gettintoon.net. Remember, it's TOON. On Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, I'm at Michael Gracia. And I'm on Twitch at ToonMaker76. Now, I mentioned Twitch earlier. Twitch is a whole new venue for me. I'm going to be going on this Saturday at 10 a.m. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be drawing. I'm going to be working on a picture that I've been playing with the last couple of days. While I talk about a pitch, and a pitch I'll never be able to do because it deals with He-Man. But I want to talk about something. I'll show you. I'm just going to share the video and the drawing real quick with you guys of what I'm working on. And screen 2. Wow. So this is a piece that I've been playing with. I was just playing in Photoshop last night, and I've been now, if I can get to having all these things here, you can see I did some inking on He-Man here, not done with it, and I'm playing with color right now. So I'm going to be using this while I talk about an idea for a pitch for He-Man I had, which I'll never be able to work on, I know. So, but you guys come on Twitch at 10 a.m. Eastern, ToonMaker76. Come back next week. Follow me on here, and at 8:30 p.m. next week Eastern, I'll have another great guest on. Thanks for everybody who tuned in, and I'll see you guys soon. All right. Bye, guys.